What's up, Tom?
What's up, guys? How are you? How's your Thursday?
Oh, we're doing well. We're happy to see Matthew Judon back out there on the practice field today. How much should we read into his attendance out on the field, especially given that it was not a padded practice, which is what he was skipping out on earlier in the week?
Well, I'd read a lot into it, just given the fact that he was so disgruntled and disenfranchised, seemingly, the last time we had seen him. I mean, it wasn't like, he wasn't there and, meandering off the field. He was pissed. And I think that what unfolded on Wednesday as well probably added to the notion that things were getting worse. So the fact that he's back out there, to me, certainly insinuates that the conversations that he had with Mayo or whoever else made things better. Again, we'll see if he's out there. He's not going to go out there in full pads and whack into people, I would think, without any money guaranteed. But it certainly seems as if he's been placated somehow.
Well, reading into the differences between the padded practices and the practices in shells, how much should we make of Drake Maye seemingly having a bounce-back day today and struggling in those padded practices earlier this week?
Probably the luck of the draw more than anything else, Mego. I think that he's going to have stretches of inefficiency, and then as you burst to the next level, you're going to have some really, really good throws. I think the most encouraging thing in terms of what Maye is doing is he's stretching together good decisions. Everything's going to be a work in progress in terms of his accuracy, his fundamentals, his decision-making, and the speed with which he makes the decisions. But stringing these good plays together, as he did today, are probably signals that he is going through some, stages of improvement. Anyone who looked at the last few days of reports and said, oh, my God, we didn't think it was going to take a while, is having selective amnesia. When the kid was drafted, we all understood that he was the biggest project, and we all covered how Bill Belichick said there's a lot of work to do here. So the work is being done, and it's going to happen in fits and starts.
Wouldn't it be, if he was out there lighting it up, Tom, wouldn't we be reacting in that way too? I sort of think that if he was out there and he was really having great throws and really dazzling everybody on the sidelines, that people would be talking about that in a similar way. Would that be premature too?
Yeah, and I think that we'd also tack onto it, this is unexpected, right?
I don't know, would we? He's the third overall pick. Would that be unexpected for him to make some plays in camp?
Well, you're the third overall pick in a vacuum. If you're the third overall pick and you are looked at as somebody who was extremely polished and played like that, then no, you wouldn't be surprised. If you were supposed to be a project and your footwork sucked and people were all on the record as saying it was going to be a while and you lit it up, then I think people would say, wow, this is a pleasant surprise. This is not surprising. I think if Judon Daniels is pooping the bed on a daily basis, that would be a little surprising.
Okay. Mayo today said on the subject of Matthew Judon that the philosophy for the team is to keep everything in-house. It seems like that's a lot different from last week when he was saying he wants everybody to express themselves and say whatever they want to, and he respects all of that. Is this sort of an evolving philosophy, or do you think there's some consistency here that I'm not seeing?
I think it's germane to contract conversations and personal conversations. Wouldn't you think? When he says, I want everything in-house?
Well, he also said that, Tom, he said that, guys are going to come up here and say, I hate Coach Mayo. So, if he's willing to hear that.
So you can take that out of the house, your feelings on something, but I think that they want to keep contract negotiations in-house. That would be what I'm thinking. I guess you can see some inconsistency there, but again, I would imagine that he does not want to revert to a feeling of, the Stasi, you can't say this or you're going to be thrown in a prison camp. I just don't think that's what's going on. And when he talks relative to Judon's situation and says we want to keep it in-house, it doesn't suggest to me that he's doing that. He's more or less saying, we're not getting to the contract stuff in front of you guys. That's logically followed for me.
Talking to Tommy Curran, NBC Sports Boston here on WEEI. You mentioned earlier Judon's been placated somehow. How do we think he's been placated? What do you think happened?
They either said, we're almost done with this thing, and it's going to work out, or it could potentially be done, and nobody's talking about it because they got pissed off because people talked yesterday, and things went sideways in a public way on social media with first Diana Rossini reporting that an offer had been made post-TIF, Judon reacting to that, and then Diana following up and saying that, misunderstanding it, he hadn't seen anything post-TIF. No one knows where that came from. The presumption immediately was, well, that came from the Patriots. I don't think it did. I think there was a miscommunication that led to the initial report and then a cleaning up after a circling back. So that being the case, I think that both sides said, you know what, why don't we just throttle it back? And we might not know until ink is on paper. But the placating, I think, could either be, we're almost done with this, we're moving along fine. It could have just simply been the conversation, or it could be fully done.
How big of a test do you think this has been, Tom, for Judon Mayo, this whole Judon holding in, holding out situation? And how would you grade him on how he's done in his first circumstance like this as a head coach?
I think it's been a great test for him because, as Mayo said today, I'll always remember the first day in full pads what I dealt with. So he got thrown into a baptism by fire. I think it's been a learning experience for him in terms of what, Christian was referring to. If you say one thing, meaning last week, give carte blanche to people to be emotive, and then they're not just emotive in front of the mic, but they do things that show their agitation publicly in a way that kind of shows you up as a head coach as losing a level of control, then you have to react to it. So I think it's been a great experience. I think that he's learned that if I do this, then this might happen. Oh, how will I do this differently? Has he been seamless with the way he dealt with it? I don't know. I bet there's probably aspects of it he'd like to have back. But I do think that if he did have missteps in this, in thinking that nobody was going to call him on, okay, I'll do this then. Then he probably looks back and says, well, I dealt with it the right way. Look, thank God, think worst case scenario. What would a worst case scenario have been Monday? Him and Judon winding up chest to chest and something turning physical, or Judon refusing to leave the field. I think that what Mayo did was on Monday, they should have had the foresight to see what was going to happen. They didn't. They should have had it articulated what they expected. Either they didn't, he didn't listen in Judon's case, or they didn't at all. But the fact that Mayo was able to navigate that situation and get the result that he hoped to get publicly was a little bit of a win.
With the offense being the focal point of everybody's sort of evaluations here, Tom, I think that the defense is being somewhat overlooked. Would you say that they're about where you'd expect them to be? Are they kind of, is the defense running itself at this point in camp as we get closer to the preseason, or is there still some work to be done there too?
Honestly, I can't tell well enough. I can't wait till the joint practice when they're going against somebody who is obviously, as the Eagles are, a polished offense with better artillery and a scheme that's been implemented. Today was a pretty good day for the offense in general, even though it was non-contact. It was very competitive in terms of what they were trying to accomplish. They were trying to cover guys. The guys were still getting open in the red zone, so that was encouraging. But we got to see him, Christian, honestly, against Philly. You guys should come down here for that one, just for a couple hours.
Oh, I would come down if we could be up on the big thing there where Gresh is. I would go down there and happily watch my guy Drake Maye. Is he going to get reps with the ones? Tom, Mayo said that earlier today. He'll have an opportunity with the ones, but we're going to mix and match. Do you think he's going to get a chance to run with the ones?
Yes, I do. I do, because if he has good practices, you have to keep putting more on his plate. And if Brissett shows aptitude with the ones, then okay, well, he's good with these guys. Let's give Dum Dum a chance here. He's playing good too. So you have to give that opportunity for him to show that, okay, he's this far away, or he just can't run with these guys. Today was, for instance, a good little run of plays today, and I'm sure that we're close to the end. He had a good throw to Juju at the back of the end zone, got broken up by Marcus Jones. Then he had a great look away to KJ Osborne for a touchdown on a half a scramble. And then he threw to Demario Douglas, and Douglas had sat down, and May thought he was moving outside, and he threw it basically into the dirt next to Douglas. And immediately May put his hand on his chest. It's like, that's me. Because Douglas had his palms up to the sky. What the hell was that? He's got to get those reps with these guys, the ones like Douglas, so that he understands the body language, as Brady used to talk about with Gronk. I could tell what he was doing based upon the way he was leaning 35 yards down the field. So he needs them.
Okay, he's Tommy Curran. Check out his work on NBC Sports Boston. He's on Gresham Fourier every Tuesday. Jones and Mego with Arcan here every Thursday. He's got training camp reports all over NBC Sports Boston. Check out his work there. And Tom, we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.
All right, guys. See ya.
All right, Tommy Curran, as all our guests joining us here on WEEI.